So what did we do in the last session? Yes, all of you. What did we do in the last session? So you have completed building one ANN model. Okay. How many of you are okay with building an ANN model, or how many of you still have doubts or confusion in building an ANN model? Are you all okay now? Yes or no? Huh? No. Why no? Very good. That's the reason we'll do it again. Okay, another ANN model. I know I'll get the answer no. So that is the reason we have put up another ANN exercise again. Okay, yeah. So what was the exercise of ANN that we have done in the last session? It was on insurance data set. Okay, so what was the output variable in the insurance data set? Expenses, which have continuous values. That is the reason we have gone for which model? Regression model. Okay. Now today we would be building another ANN model on new data sets. Okay. So when we try to build ANN model, we usually follow 3 steps. What are they? Forward propagation, loss function calculation, and then backward propagation. If suppose I switch from regression to classification model, what are the changes, what are the necessary changes that I have to incorporate in my model? Will there be any change in the forward propagation? Yes. Where will be the change? Activation functions. Very good. So when I switch from one model to another model based on the data set, the first change that I encounter would be in the activation functions, right? So when we talk about regression, what was the activation functions that we have used for the hidden layer? It was ReLU. Do we have to use any activation function for the output layer in case of regression? No. Why? Because regression will have continuous values, and the same continuous values are expected to be at the output. That is the reason we have taken a simple identity matrix which will give us the original values. Okay. Now, what is the second step in building ANN model? Calculating loss function. So when I switch from regression to classification, is my loss function calculation changed? Yes. So what was the loss function that we have used for regression model? Mean square error, MSE, or you can also use MAE. Okay. What about classification? We will be using cross entropy. So we have 2 types of classifications again, binary and multi-class. So today in this session you would be doing exercise on building ANN model for binary classification from beginning till end. Okay. So all these days we were taking 3 sessions, 4 sessions for building one ANN model because you were in the beginning stage. Okay. Now you are very clear with all the 10 important steps that we were doing. So today you have to complete the binary classification ANN model completely in this session itself. All 10 steps, starting from importing the data sets to training the model. Are you all clear? Yes or no? So what would be the first change, guys? Activation functions. So for regression, it was ReLU in the hidden layers, no activation functions in the output layer. How about classification? Binary classification. So we take sigmoid in the hidden layer also, sigmoid in the output layer also. If it is multi-class, we go with softmax for the output layer. Are you all clear? Yes or no? This is the first change. Second change is loss function, which we use is binary cross entropy. Okay. Will there be any change in backward propagation? Where would be the change in backward propagation? Yes, the gradient would be calculated with respect to the loss function, which is already changed. Okay. So let's quickly look into this. Okay. So what are the 4 activation functions that we have discussed? Sigmoid, tanh, ReLU, and softmax. ReLU for regression, sigmoid and softmax for classification. For binary, we use sigmoid in both hidden and output, whereas for multi-class, we use sigmoid and softmax. Okay. Yeah, this is the sigmoid function. So what does sigmoid function do? It will arrange all the values in between what? 0 and 1. Okay, either yes or no category. So that is the reason we call it as binary classification. Okay. Now what is the loss function that we use for classification? We go for cross entropy. Okay. So this is the formula for binary cross entropy. So what is Y and Y prediction there? Y are the actual values, that is Y test, and Y prediction are the predicted values by the model. Okay. So when I compare both, if my Y prediction and Y test are same, the loss would be 0. If Y and Y prediction are totally contrast, the loss would be high. Okay. So with this, we have this formula for calculating binary cross entropy. You can note down this formula. This would be the change that you have to incorporate in your model today. Okay. Yeah. So what is the data set that we are working on today? Churn modeling. Okay. So I'll tell you what churn modeling is all about. Now, churn modeling is all about checking if a customer will continue with the organization or not. Depending on various parameters, checking if a person will continue or exit. Here I have taken a data set about a customer continuing with the bank or exiting with the bank. Okay. Now how many features do I have in this data set? 1 to 13. Okay. Customer ID, surname, credit score, geography, gender, age and all that. And observe the last feature. What is the last feature there? Exited, which says whether the customer will continue or exit depending on the other 12 features. So what are my inputs here? Columns 1 to 12 would be my inputs and the output column would be exit. Okay. So this is how a sample data set looks like. Okay. So once you look at the output column, look at the values in the output column, there are either 1 or 0. So for this reason, I have chosen which model? Binary classification. See, when you are choosing the model, first look at the data set, observe the values in the data set, especially the target variable or the output variable. So depending on that, you are supposed to choose the model. Are you all clear with this? So for churn modeling, we go for building ANN model with respect to which classification? Binary classification. Okay. We'll open the notebook, sit and complete all the steps. Step 1. What is step? So let's quickly recap all the steps. So what is step 1? What is step 1? Import the libraries and load the data set. The data set is there in the shared folder. You can load the data set. What is step 2? What is step 2? Divide the data set into X and Y. X 1 to 12 features and Y would be the exited column. After that in step 3, what do we do? Standard scalar, standardization. Okay. After that, what do? We initialize the ANN parameters, W1, W2, B1 and B2. Build a simple one-layer ANN network like what we have done previously. Okay. So after this, what do? We define the activation functions, and what activation function are we using? Sigmoid. Okay. After that, forward propagation, compute the loss function, which is binary cross entropy, and then backward propagation, update weights, train the model. Okay. Even if you are done till this point, we are okay with it. Okay. You are supposed to complete this complete exercise today by 11 o'clock. Okay. Start working on it. We'll put the formula, don't worry. There's only one change, sigmoid and then the loss function. Choose binary cross entropy here. Yes. 3 steps. Complete those 3 steps. Import libraries, load the data set, divide the data set into X and Y. Task 1. Please respond to us such that we will go to the next step. Completed. Importing libraries, loading the data set, X and Y, first test case passed. First 3 steps in task 1.
Log out and log in once again. Okay, so if you are getting, I think we will give time. So don't worry. Re-log in and write the code. Re-log in. We will give time. Don't worry.
Yeah, in task 1, we have completed till initializing parameters, right? W1, W2, B1, B2. In task 2, you're supposed to define activation functions and their derivatives and then finish forward propagation. Define the activation function for the classification model and then complete forward propagation. Define activation function and then implement forward propagation. So once you complete doing forward propagation, next would be computing loss. Okay. So for binary classification, what is the loss function that we are using? Binary cross entropy. Okay. So define the loss function. In step 7, please define the loss function. After this, complete backward propagation. In the same cell, in the same assignment, you have to complete defining loss function and backward propagation.